So yes, I am very sorry, folks, about that. Typical, isn't it? Um,
Yeah.
I was just,
Big exchange for it not to be me.
it does. I still don't know whether it was my connection or if it was something that was happening with Restream or if it was my computer or what, but it was definitely my end, whatever it was. So I do apologize, folks, for that one. Well, after the day I've had, that sort of fits in perfectly with how it's gone. So anyway, what I was saying is that this stream is going to be one of Dave's first articles. Now, Dave wrote this article about 10 years ago. It was one of his first articles on Answers in Reason. So it was from January 2016. I mean, that was only a month, maybe 2 months after we actually had the idea to put the site together. So it is definitely one of our earliest articles ever. So I think that we should really just let Dave take it away and everyone can chime in. I am going to do my best to stay on top of the chat whilst Dave's chats at us.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I wrote this is because back when I was actually into the debate groups and stuff, like 10 years ago, there was a big push from Muslims. And because I'd never really debated Islam before or really studied it, I kind of threw myself into it and looked into it and wanted to debate Muslims because it was a new challenge. And one of the arguments is that the Quran is perfect. And I wanted to see if I could sort of attack that argument. And it's not quite as easy as it sounds. And I came up with an argument that I felt was kind of original. And some ex-Muslims said that they'd never seen it argued like this before as well.
That's good.
Okay.
Were
So
they
the question,
ex-Muslims before or after you wrote your article?
before, unfortunately,
So
and
it
it did
didn't
get a lot.
convert anyone.
I wouldn't think so. It's not that good of an argument. None of my arguments are that good.
Are they good enough to keep me entertained? That's all they need.
That's all that matters. Yeah. They're good enough to stop me going senile and my brain going to mush. That's all that really counts. Okay. So, amongst the many claims about proof of divinity in Islam, the Quran is held up as one. Many aspects of it are put forward, such as its eloquence, its failure to conform to common literary standards of the time. They claim it's grammatically perfect and much more. Um, One of the more ambiguous and arguably most important is that it is simply perfect, that no error can be found in it. How does one objectively measure a standard of perfection in a book, though? I mean, have you heard the Muslims argue this, that the Quran is perfect?
Oh yeah, no, that's the common one. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I haven't read much of the Quran. Greg was actually saying as well. He's quite interested in tonight's stream because it's nothing that he's really ever got involved with. I've read little bits where I've been debating with Muslims before, and they're talking about miracles in the Quran and things that no one could have ever known, and they, there were certain bits that I said, okay, so are you saying that this bit is actually factually true? And they said yes, and then I'd provide them some evidence that would show, okay, well that just shows that this particular bit is wrong. And they go, no, it's not, because the science has to be wrong, because the Quran says it's true and it's perfect. And it turned into this whole circular argument. You see the same sort of thing when you're having discussions with fundamentalist Christians. It's that whole circular, the Bible's perfect because it's the word of God, because it says so in the Bible, and the Bible's perfect. And it's the same sort of conversation you tend to get involved with Muslims who are very fundamentalist, that go, no, the Quran's perfect. It's,
Yeah.
so that is my main sort of thing. And as Greg has just said, he's read tiny bits as well, and often heard the science in the Quran arguments as well. So he hasn't actually heard the Quran is perfect argument. So this entire thing is new to him.
Okay, nice one. Okay, well, one of the claims that it's perfect is that there's science in it. The grammar is perfect in it, and the poetry is perfect, all that kind of stuff. And those are kind of hard to attack, really. So I'll carry on with the next paragraph because I start to go more and more into this kind of stuff. Luckily, as mentioned previously, there are many claims about the miraculous nature of the Quran. There is, of course, the claim that the Quran contains perfect grammar. There are arguments on both sides of the fence for this one, by very educated people, and that's where we will leave this argument, as it is not the argument that we will be discussing. Even if we concede perfect grammar, the Quran is still flawed, which is true for all other arguments for perfection that can be made about the Quran. For it could be perfect in almost every other superficial way and still be fundamentally flawed. Which is why, for this argument, we shall be looking at whether or not the Quran fulfills its purpose. For can a tool that does not fulfill its purpose really be considered perfect?
Like if you were to have a hammer that couldn't actually bang nails in because it was made of plasticine.
Yeah, if you had a gun that shot you, it couldn't be a perfect gun, could it?
No, unless you were trying to shoot yourself.
Yeah, good point. Okay, so first we must determine the purpose of the Quran. And the best place to turn to find the purpose of the Quran is the Quran itself, along with Islamic apologetics, of course. I use of course a lot, don't I?
Of course.
Here we find, of course. Well, it makes sense.
It does, of course.
Here we find a common theme running through, okay, that should have said throughout, that the purpose of the Quran is to guide humanity and to be Allah's final revelation to humanity. I'm sure you've heard this argument from Muslims that the Quran, Muhammad is the final prophet, the Quran is the final revelation, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I've actually heard Muslims say that, the Bible and the Torah and things like that are all inspired by God, but they are not perfect, and they do contain errors that the Quran doesn't have, because the Quran is the final book, fully inspired by God and given to us, and it was written in the heavens long before all the other books and all that sort of thing.
That's right. Yeah, that's one of the popular arguments, and that's why they say Jesus was never actually crucified, because in the Quran it says that God played a trick on people, and somebody else was actually crucified, and God just made it look like Jesus. And they know this because the Quran is written directly by God and dictated to Muhammad. Okay. If this is what is declared to be the purpose of the book by the book, then it is by this standard that we should judge the book. After all, we would not judge the quality of The Lord of the Rings based on its ability to teach us how to code in C++.
It'd be C# nowadays anyway, but yeah.
Screw C#. Okay.
We're probably the only two on the stream that would have found that one funny.
In order of fairness, we should also evaluate its ability to fulfill both purposes individually and together. As the first purpose of the Quran is to guide humanity, we should begin there. So does the Quran effectively guide humanity, both individually and collectively? Well, that, unfortunately, is all down to how you interpret an effective guide for humanity, as that is a very subjective opinion. There is much that the Quran attempts to guide us in. There is law, science, morality, government, taxation, inheritance, and much more. To discuss its effectiveness in each of these areas would be very time-consuming, and again, it would become very subjective. The very existence of apologetics covering all the topics and questions raised is evidence enough that the topic is one of a personal nature. However, we could argue that its ability in each area is a secondary argument. What we must first look at is the ability of the Quran to effectively share the information contained in the book. As the Quran could be considered an instruction manual, it is by these standards that we must judge it. This argument is also strengthened by the subjective nature of the other arguments. For if an instruction book can be interpreted in many different ways, some of them in complete conflict with each other, and all can be supported by arguments from the Quran itself, then it is not an effective guide or instruction book. An effective guide would not offer confusion about the instructions being given. They would be clear, concise, and not open to interpretation. If we were given an instruction manual for the construction of a personal computer where the instructions were vague enough that they would lead to the building of a faulty computer, even by those who have studied the instructions over a great length of time, then the instructions would be considered faulty. For effective instruction is clear, concise, and offers no room for interpretation. Same logic can be applied to a map or even an analogy as simple as a compass. As the Quran cannot effectively guide the people it is supposed to, can it be considered perfect?
This is a common argument that I have and about the Bible as well, especially with biblical inerrantists. If it's so inerrant, why is it open to interpretation? Why can there be so many different interpretations? Why are there things that don't seem clear and correct? Why doesn't the science line up with it and all of that sort of thing? So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The difference between the Bible and the Quran, though, is the Bible doesn't claim to be the final revelation and the perfect guide for humanity.
No, people might make claims about it in that way, but yeah, that's fair.
The Bible itself doesn't claim that, does it? And we can even see that, it changes over time. Like Jesus came and replaced the laws that came before it and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the Quran states that these instructions are to be followed to the letter forever because this is what God has dictated how we should live.
Yeah. And if your instructions are ABC and you go, well, what does ABC mean? It's not clear instructions.
Exactly. And, there's scholars who spend 20 or 30 years investigating this stuff, and they all come up with very different conclusions about what it says. And I'll follow up with that later with some of the apologetics. It's not in the article, but I know the apologetics.
Mm-hmm.
The answer to that question, of course, is no. It could not be considered perfect any more than a car that cannot drive efficiently could not be considered perfect. If perfection is without flaw, and the Quran cannot effectively guide as it is supposed to, then the Quran is flawed and therefore not perfect. It becomes even more imperfect when you consider the threats that it bizarrely throws around about eternal suffering for not believing it. A guide that threatens us with eternal torture for its own mistakes is imperfect. This means that the Quran fails in its second purpose, that of being the last revelation of the creator of the universe to humanity. For if it needs clarification, then it cannot be considered perfect as a final revelation. A final revelation would clearly and concisely lay itself out, especially if the being knew the future of the book and how it would be misinterpreted when he was writing it. It makes both the guide and the writer of the guide imperfect, which also effectively counters the argument that Allah is perfect in all of his attributes. A perfect intelligence would know these were flaws and repair them before releasing them and declaring them perfect. This also means that the Quran is ineffective at fulfilling both purposes at the same time, for the failure of its ability to fulfill its first purpose is one of the causes of its inability to fulfill its second purpose, meaning that the Quran completely fails to fulfill its purpose. Can a book that completely fails to fulfill its purpose really be considered perfect and without flaw? Of course not, for that would be a contradiction. A flawed object cannot be considered without flaw. Therefore, the only conclusion we can draw about the Quran is that it does not fulfill its purpose even at the most basic level. Therefore, the answer to the question of whether or not the Quran is perfect is no. It is far from perfect. But yeah, it's quite a short article for me. You can tell it was long before I got into the philosophy.
No, it's interesting as well. I mean, it's this argument does work for the Bible with inerrantists as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily work for the Bible overall, but it does work with the inerrantists. Greg actually had a logical argument that's definitely valid, and I'm working my way through it in my head to work out if it's sound. And he says, that which is ambiguous does not contain objective truth. The Bible is ambiguous, or the Quran is ambiguous. Therefore, the Bible doesn't contain objective truth. Now, I would contest, just because something is ambiguous in places doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't have any truth in it.
Or that it's not objectively true, because all objectively true means that it does match some state of affairs about reality.
Yeah. So there are some things that I would argue that potentially are objectively true within the Bible, or that maybe even the Quran. I haven't read enough to do it. I think most of it is absolute bullshit. But I think that saying that it doesn't contain objective truth is not necessarily the right way to go with that one, Greg. I would say if you changed your argument to that which is ambiguous cannot be a perfect instruction, the Bible or the Quran are ambiguous, therefore the Bible or Quran are not perfect, I think that would be a better way of presenting your argument. So I think your argument was valid. I think it's unsound in certain areas. But if you change it, just tweak it that little bit, it would be both valid and sound. Hopefully that that makes more sense to you. We've got a couple of other comments that have come in from Computer Brain. When I was still a Christian, the excuse I always heard was the Bible is a spiritual book and can never be fully understood with a worldly mind. I'm sure some Muslims say this about the Quran as well. Yes.
No. No, they don't. Because the Quran, all Muslims by nature have to be inerrantists, because the Quran is written by God and without flaw.
Yeah, so they will say you need to understand Arabic to truly understand it.
Yeah.
They will make the excuse about the translation. So I apologize for being unclear with what I said. There you go. There was ambiguity. There was some objective truth in there, though. Back to your point, Greg. Boom. There was some objective truth in there. It just wasn't clear because I wasn't clear. But yeah, so they will say that you need to understand it in the original language that it was written, and then you can understand it with a worldly mind.
Which again, that would go to further prove the argument that I've just made, that it is not perfect. Because if it can't be translated effectively, then it can't fulfill its purpose, because Arabic is not the language that everybody in the world speaks.
Yeah. So let's get to some other questions and things in that. Let's just take 2 minutes, because I've today's my day where I let myself have a couple of beers, and it's gone right through me. So I'm going to put the stream in. Be right back just for a second, and hopefully the stream won't crash this time.
You broke it, did it?
I did. I can get rid of
What am I gonna do today, man? Oh, give a bicycle. He always has some great ideas what to do. Hey, yo, pod, what's up, man?
Yeah, man, what you saying, bro?
Yeah, how's it going, bro? How you feeling?
Lean.
Safe, me too, man, me too. I'm so bored out of my mind, though. We gotta hook up. Wait, what happened to you yesterday, man? I thought you were coming round.
I didn't do nothing, man. In fact, you wanna know what I done yesterday? I'll rap that shit to you right now. You know what? Open my eyes and what do I see? It's a big Jimmy Bifter staring back at me. I put it to my lips and the taste is sweet. And I heard my brothers rocking out to this beat. I closed my eyes, then rose from my seat. And I had to venture forth to find some munch to eat. And I stopped off in their room and they looked at me. I'd forgotten my pants, you know, I thought I felt free. So after I recovered, then they passed me the zoo. I put on some pants and I had another two. I grabbed up some munch and I gelled back my hair. And I went down to Oxford to check the girls there. But all I see was classic Christian and James. Cause this is Oxford and it's always the same. Popular for jabs, but that's its only fame. And the mental little bread that we all know is fade. We got a cinema with one fucking screen. Uncomfortable seats and they're never ever clean. And everything is closed by 10:30. So we sit around bored and we smoke another bin. We could take a train and we could leave this place, but it would cost a fucking lot. And there's the last train race. The underage.
Oh, we're back. We're back in the room.
Okay.
So,
Sorry, I was typing away there and didn't see you come back in.
That's okay. I remembered that I had asparagus earlier.
So you've got green pea?
No. It when I eat asparagus, my wee starts to smell like champagne that's been left out overnight with the cork out.
Okay.
Oddly, when I drink coffee, it smells like burnt coffee. So there
I
you
think
go.
you need an extra. What Riva? What's the name of those filter things?
I don't know. Brita filter?
Like water filter. Brita, that's it. You need one of them on your kidneys.
Yeah, that'd be good. So yeah. So Greg says, yeah, that's an issue. I mean it as a whole, but how do you do that? How would you word that with a simple syllogism? That which includes ambiguity. Yeah, I mean, I would word it as we were saying, that which contains ambiguity can't be considered perfect instruction. So that is the only way I'd go with it, because I do think something that is ambiguous can have an objective truth in it. It's just not clear what that objective truth is, and therefore, well, that's where apologetics comes in to try and tell you what that objective truth is. Again, if you need apologetics, then clearly it's not perfect instruction. So there you go. There's another syllogism that you can explain. That which needs apologetics is not perfect instruction. The Quran and Bible require apologetics. Therefore, they are not perfect instruction. I think that could be considered valid and sound as well. LB says, every time a preacher or someone else has another view of the Bible, other Christians project their perfected interpretation and get so anal about it and go, that's not scripture. You're right there. I mean, I think both Greg and LB have had a much more religious background than me, and definitely more than you. I mean,
Yeah.
God, I've had a fundamentalist upbringing in comparison to you, Dave, and I definitely haven't had a fundamentalist upbringing. But both of you were definitely in that fundamentalist evangelical camp. So you definitely know your biblical scripture. In fact, I'm sure the pair of you could come on and school us, and you'd find out that we have some common misunderstandings that you'd have thought, but guys, you're better than this. And we'll go, no, we're really not.
No, we're not. No. I mean, I'll admit, I probably know Islam better than I know Christianity, because
really?
Yeah, my knowledge of Christianity is more cultural than it is actual proper study. Whereas I dived into Islam because of the claims being made by it and the arguments coming from Muslims and things like that. I dove myself into it.
That's fair. That's a good way to do it. I mean, I suppose with religion for me, it was obviously. I say I was born into Christianity. I'm not saying I was born a Christian. I'm saying I was born into Christianity, and my schooling was quite Christian at a young age, even into my early teenage years, and possibly even my mid-teenage years. I was at boarding school and still had to do church services on Sundays and stuff like that. So I can't remember what my point was because I got thinking about school and how much I hated going to the Sundays. And you know what? The only people that were allowed to skip the church service were the Muslims for their own service. And I was like, well, what about people like me who don't believe any of this crap and think it's all bullshit?
Yeah.
Like, why am I stuck doing this service?
Yeah. I mean, were the Muslims allowed to take breaks during the day so that they could pray?
I'm not sure on that one, but they did have a special menu, a halal menu, and it's quite funny actually because what you were coming up with in our stream, it's a load of cack, and you mentioned that halal meant allowed. That's actually how me and my friend used to use it, because instead of allow that, we'd go halal that back in the day. But the funny thing is, we were more accurate with our use by joking about it because it sounded similar than actually how people tend to use it, and they used to describe it as the way the animal was killed and all of that sort of stuff. This is halal food because it's been, killed this certain way, and yeah. Going really off-piste.
Or on-piste because you've been drinking.
Yeah, or just being pieced.
Yeah.
Yes, more British rap. You're right. I do need to change the Be Right Back music. I just don't know what to put in there. What I want to do for the Be Right Back, actually, is put together some clips and bits and stuff like that. So for when we're, it needs to be something that generally will only be on Be Right Back for about 30 seconds to a minute, but just something that will be about 2 minutes long that's entertaining and funny. Maybe some of our best bits or anything like that. If any of you have any ideas of anything you think would be good for We'll Be Right Back video, let us know and we'll chuck it in there. But yeah, it won't just be that track forever. It's just a case of that was a placeholder. I needed something in there just to keep everyone entertained whilst I needed to go and wee or needed to change some of the screens that we're going to be looking at. We're getting better at it, I hope. Things seem a little bit more seamless. But yeah.
He says after the stream cut out before we actually started.
Shut up. Yeah, do you know what's going to happen? I'm going to move to Bournemouth soon, and who knows what the internet's like down there. I mean, it's supposed to be good, but it's supposed to be good here, and look what keeps happening. Although my bonus will come in and I'll get a new machine, and maybe the entire issue is the fact that my 10-year-old machine, whilst it can play games okay, it can't handle all this streaming stuff. That which speaks of how pee smells cannot be perfect. Yes, Greg. I've never claimed to be perfect though, so there you go. Dave, you've done a syllogism in there as well. If an instruction is perfect, then it contains no ambiguity. A certain instruction contains a big ambiguity, therefore the instruction is not perfect. Yeah, that's basically what I was saying, but sounding much more cleverer. And Clever Thunderstorm says, or Computer Brain says, anything that needs to be explained by someone like Ken Ham can't be perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
Or Ray Comfort or Aaron Ra. Yeah, it's funny how I put those fundies all in the same camp.
Well, they are.
Yeah, two sides of the same coin.
People with double-digit IQs telling everybody else how smart they are.
Ah, Dave, LB says that we're great in philosophy. I don't agree. I don't think I'm great in it at all. I just try really, really hard. He's pretty great, though.
I'm average.
I mean, comparative scale with most of the people on the internet, you're pretty great.
I've just read a few more things that some people haven't. Basically.
Leon actually likes the current Be Right Back. Oh, okay, so you like that one. Excellent. Whoever thought that a really shitty rap I wrote and beat I made would be liked by anyone? Philip, yeah, the Aussie talking about lactheism could be one of them in there. You're right. That actually was one of the clips. We did an intro track that we were starting to do originally that was like a video intro. And it did have that little bit about Aussie in there having a chat about lactheism, and you brought up the bit about rocks being atheists and all that, didn't you, Dave?
The lowest IQ.
Yes. But yeah, you could be right, Philip. Maybe we need some hits. Maybe I need a few different Be Right Backs, so that, you know, the first time it maybe is a particular track, the track of the week, and next time will be a video playlist of lactheism, and next thing will be questions about a particular philosophical topic, or maybe something that's really going to get people irate, like a question about gender or trans rights or something like that. Just a question, just asking a question. And sometimes asking those sorts of questions gets people thinking that you're anti-trans rights or something like that. And it's one of those things that is so very, very, very difficult. I mean, that Stephen Law article where I thought he was very evenly handed and was just presenting an argument about gender, and how people
Ways to discuss it.
Yeah, and that's all he did. You could discuss it in this way, you could discuss it in this way, you could discuss it in this way, you could discuss it in this way. If you discuss it in this way, then these are the sort of conclusions you'll come to. But if you see it this way, these are the discussions you come to. And if you discuss it this way, these are the conclusions you come to. And he had people having a go at him for being anti-trans. And it was like, what? He didn't do that at all.
Well, especially as the article ended with saying, what we have to remember is that there's very real people suffering very real harm. And while we argue about how they should be defined, these people are coming to harm, and this needs to be stopped.
Yes, exactly. I mean, he wrote it in such a way that I felt that, as you mentioned there, his opinion came through. And I think it came through the article as well, that he seemed to almost hesitant to say some of the things he was saying when he was trying to address it. Like, he was going, you could discuss it this way, and, you know, there's this. And you could feel him going, oh, I don't like that. I don't like that I've written that, but I have to lay it out there because these are all the different ways you can discuss it. And then he came to it into the end. But yeah. Philip's back. Something weird happened to your stream for some reason. No, Phil, it wasn't you, buddy. It was me this week. It wasn't. See, when Dave has a fuck up, it's okay because the stream keeps going. It's just he gets frozen in whatever face he's pulling at the time. But today, today it was me, and I don't know what specifically was about me. I don't know if it was my internet or not, but I even lost connection to Discord with Dave. So I assume my internet connection went down for 20, 30 seconds. And then when it reconnected to Restream, but it killed the stream everywhere else. So is what it is. One of those things. But yeah, Phil, it wasn't you. Don't worry. We did try and reach everyone through Discord, but you know, you weren't in there.
Oh yeah, and I have to apologize to everybody because I logged on to Discord the other day at about 2 in the afternoon, but nobody was there, so I left at about 3:30, and everybody seemed to appear about 4, and I didn't notice until the next day.
Ah, yeah. And I just completely forgot that we said to have a chat in there. So I haven't logged on until just before the stream.
Well, I was a bit shattered today, so I didn't go on, but I've got to go out in the morning, and then when I come back in the afternoon, I'll start studying, log on to Discord again.
There. Hello, Dark Priest. You've just entered the room. Nice to see you. To see you, nice. Unfortunately, you've just missed the article reading that we did. So it was one of Dave's first articles. In fact, it's an article Dave wrote 10 years ago, and it was one of the first articles on Answers in Reason 5 years ago. The short version, no, it's not perfect. There you go.
Yep.
The main reason why was because it's supposed to be a perfect instruction manual and it's ambiguous, it's unclear. So therefore, if it's a perfect instruction manual for how to be a human, the fact that it can be interpreted in so many different ways makes it not perfect. So that is one of the main contentions with it. Now, there are plenty of other arguments that you can go down the route of as well. So there's things like science, for example, the claims of science in the Quran. I tell you what, there's
The fetus.
that. Sorry,
The fetus discussion in the
no,
Quran?
I don't know that one. I don't think.
Okay, a Muslim will tell you that it contains a perfect description of how a fetus goes through growth. And it uses terms like nutfa for semen, and then the semen attaches itself to the egg and it grows into a slug-like creature and goes through a veil of darkness and a bunch of other stuff. And they'll say that this is a perfect description. And when you actually read it, it's about 4 lines long. And it rips off, who's the Greek medicine guy? Galen. It ripped off Galen, who got it completely wrong.
That's interesting. I think there was some other ones. I don't know if it was in the Quran or the Bible. See, I get the two confused from conversations. I think because Dave and I have got bored of the discussions, we don't spend much time looking into them, and knowledge that you might have once had seems to go. But I don't know whether it was the Bible or the Quran that claimed that there was a penis bone, as in the baculum. Which is something other creatures have, but we don't. Do you remember which that was?
I don't think it's in the Quran. Not that I can remember. But what is in Quran is that semen comes from the lower back area.
Yes, no, I remember that one as well. That's the one I was just going to come on after that. But yeah, that is another one there. So there are tons of, scientific errors in the Quran. There is even that guy, that apologist, like Hamza Torzis or something like that. Yeah, I think Alan wrote an article on him, and that one is also on Answers in Reason. I'll just have a quick search myself on there. Hamza Torzis, handbrake U-turn on scientific miracles in the Quran. Yeah, so that's an apologist that actually turned round and changed his mind and said, yeah, actually, no.
Yeah, he kept getting stomped on by everybody about the miracles in the Quran, the scientific miracles. Like the fetus was one he used. And you have to interpret, in order to make the argument that he was making, you have to interpret certain Arabic words in particular ways. And these words have only been interpreted that way since medical science proved something.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, so Dave did a great breakdown of why the Quran's not perfect based on the instructions it gives. Alan has done one about the scientific miracles in the Quran. And I'm sure there's plenty of sites out there as well where you can look up and you can look into the Quran, you can read it. Now, as we mentioned earlier, many apologists will turn around and say you need to learn it in the original language. So that again could be, as Dave said earlier, another argument against, well, if it can't be translated accurately and easy to be understood, then again, it's not a clear instruction manual for humankind. So if someone ever does say that to you, that is a good response for them. Greg, it was nice seeing you, man. We're pretty much
easy, Greg.
done anyway, so we're just in the general chat phrase. But hope you get your work done, and hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday. And that wasn't me calling you a cunt. I call him a cunt, not you. But yeah, so Leon, you were having that conversation earlier with some folks. I mean, I don't know if you saw that go by in the chat, but this stream tonight sort of fell on a strange thing for Leon, where he was discussing the Quran with some Muslims tonight, and talking about the scientific miracles and the perfection of the Quran. So hopefully the stream has been somewhat useful to you in that regard, and there's a couple of links there. So tonight's article and Alan's about Hamza Tortz's scientific miracles in the Quran. So there you go. You've got your science, you've got your instructions, so you've got your philosophy side of it as well. Oh look, there's science and philosophy in a stream. Cheers.
We've done well tonight. I mean, the Big Bang one is in the Quran, and it describes God as expanding the universe so everything can fit in, and how he's constantly expanding the universe as life goes on. And they interpret that to mean that there's a scientific miracle in the Quran. But when you actually read it, it doesn't actually say that.
What does it say?
It just says that he expanded everything to fit the universe inside it.
Fair. I mean, there's one from the Bible that I actually think that if someone wanted to take the poetic nature of the Bible in the Genesis story about the way God brought life forward, and how he brought the plants forward, and how he did this, and you could actually say, he doesn't specify, oh, you will be a sunflower, oh, you will be a rose. You'll say, oh yeah, just do your thing, man. Start your life. And you could almost take that, if you really wanted to make a tenuous link with that and evolution, you could say, yeah, this is just a poetic representation. It's all metaphorical, man. It's poetry. It's just describing evolution in a particular way. And you know what? I find that at least a little bit more honest than saying, no, it's just definitely God creating the world in this many days and blah, 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 and taking a very literalist stance on the creation story in the Bible. But the thing that comes there is, okay, so if this is metaphor, poetry, whatever, how much of the rest of it is actually metaphor, poetry, whatever? Is the Bible actually just a really long-winded Aesop's fables?
I think there is a lot of it that is.
I said why. But it's a question for someone that actually believes that it's, certain parts are metaphorical, but they believe other bits to be completely true. How do they know that those bits are completely true? How do they know it's any different from an Aesop's fable?
Yeah. I mean, going back to the Quran, it's funny you should mention the evolution in the Bible thing, because there's some that argue that evolution is in the Quran as well, because there's a bit of it that speaks of things springing forth from the water, and life coming from water. And there's that argument that, you see, the Quran, when it discusses the creation of Adam, it discusses him being made out of clay and Allah breathing life into the clay. And they say, well, clay uses water and minerals, and all those things come from the water. And, evolution says life started in the water. So therefore, evolution is in the Quran.
Again, it's that tenuous link. It's that
Yeah.
tenuous link. Again, it's ambiguous. So you could argue that maybe there is some objective truth in there. It's just so unclear you don't even know it's there.
Yeah. There is one interesting thing in the Quran, and that's the two seas mixing, where salt and fresh water can't mix, and there's a barrier between the two. And they'll argue, well, how could anybody in Arabia know these things at that time? Because none of them were seafaring people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's quite an interesting thing, and that is an actual natural occurrence where, heavy water doesn't mix with lighter water,
Yep.
and you get what looks like a barrier.
Yep.
But the Quran describes it as like a wall, whereas anybody who knows how it actually works knows that it's a gradation.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll argue, well, how could the Arabians know these things? Because they weren't seafaring people, but they were traders. They weren't living in an isolated pocket of the world where nobody ever visited that could have learned these things.
No, exactly. I've had that conversation before, and I've said, so did no one outside of the culture enter it? No, of course they did. So stories were not passed on ever? Of course they would have been passed on. So could this story of the sea been passed on? Oh no. Well, why not? Oh, it wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the same. There's a lot of Greek science in the Quran. A lot of the science that's in there is based on Greek. Like I said, the fetus thing is based on Galen's work. And there's a couple of other bits, and I can't quite remember what they are now. But a lot of it seems to be based on what the Greeks were saying a long time before that. So it's pretty obvious that a lot of it came from the Greeks being passed on. And the Arabs at the time were very much a culture of narrative where people would pass on stuff through stories and spoken language and that kind of thing. So it's pretty obvious that it could have got there and people would have shared those stories with each other. They were great poets and they had great memory as far as I can remember. And that, that's, yeah. It's what people were saying about them and what historians say about them, as far as I can remember. But yeah, they were that kind of culture.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there is so much bias from everyone looking into these books, and they very much see what they want to see. And the flip side, there's a lot of bias from people looking against these books as well. So I think it's fair to say that, both the Quran and the Bible are not perfect. But that doesn't necessarily mean there isn't any truth to any of it that's in there. There isn't anything that we can learn from it. I mean, there's stuff that we can learn from it. But I think most people who have come out of religion become very anti-religion. And they become anti all religions, and they become very, it's all bullshit, it's all wrong. And actually, I don't think it's necessarily all wrong. And I think it gives us an insight to our past and the way culture evolved over the millennia. And it's a very interesting and rich topic. It's just not something that holds any weight for me from the religious side. But there's still some stuff in there that's interesting. And there's stuff like, as I mentioned, one of my favourite parts of the Bible is love thy neighbour, and love being more than just the feeling, it being a choice and an actions that relate to that choice. And if everybody acted that way, I mean, fuck, do you know what? if they actually came out with the Bible, right, and they said, these are a bunch of stories, but, this was the bit at the beginning, but there's one thing you should know. It's love thy neighbor. And love doesn't just relate to the lustful feelings you might get. It's the choice to love someone and the actions. And we should treat everyone as our neighbors, regardless of their creed, color, etc. And if that was the beginning of the Bible, and then you had all the bullshit behind it, you know what? I might actually be religious, because that is something I can get behind myself. God, I've turned into a preacher.
You have. We'll have you on Sunday earning loads of money being a televangelist. But yeah, I mean, there is stuff in like the Bible and the Quran that can teach us about how people lived at the time. To say everything is bullshit is just, I don't know, it's just too easy of a criticism and not an accurate criticism.
I agree. It's far too dismissive.
Yeah. I mean, I've even heard Muhammad mythicists over the last 10 years. People who say Muhammad didn't actually exist. It's not as popular as Jesus mythicism, but it's out there.
I think people can be even more certain about Muhammad than they can Jesus, and I think we should be pretty, as far as historical accounts go, I think we should be fairly certain about Jesus as well. As the man, I'm not talking about the biblical claims or the mythology that goes around them. I think it's fairly safe to say that these people at least existed in history.
Yeah. It'd be like saying Joseph Smith didn't exist.
Which, give it 1,000 or so years, people might.
Yeah, probably.
Although we're in the digital world now, so I don't think there's any way people could deny that we exist, Dave.
Have you not seen how good AI is these days?
Yeah, actually, Chris sent me a little video of me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm getting it up now, and I'll also get my phone out and show you the video. But yeah, I'll bring the mic up and hold it to the camera. Is that coming through to everyone?
Yeah.
I don't know if that the microphone was actually picking it up because it was too quiet. Let's load it up, make it a bit louder, and do it again.
I could hear it.
Oh, I know you could, but then there isn't the thing. It's not coming through to the microphone. My microphone is so tightly honed that it's not coming through.
Oh.
Well, I do apologize, but that was basically me singing "What Is Love," and I definitely haven't sung that song. Well, at least that very well. I think the beers have kicked in. But there you go.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them on Twitter at the minute, like Kant and Hume and...
Yes, I've seen that one. They're all doing Maya He, Maya Ha, and
yeah,
they've got the royal family doing that one as well. And there's a brilliant one. There's an absolutely brilliant one. I'll tell you what. There's what's it called? King Jong Un. Doing one. I just need to get WhatsApp up, and then I will be able to show you some of these. Apparently, it's not on my computer anymore. Oh no, there it is. Oh, I'm having a bad tech day, and I love tech, and I love interacting with tech, and I am having a bad tech day. So, I do apologize. Let's get it up so I can get it on. I hate it when it takes forever for things to load. Right, I just need to switch the screens. How do I share? Share your screen. That one. Hola. Should be coming through, and I need to just change things up on the actual streaming software as well.
All I see is me split in half.
Exactly. That should be
there we go.
There we go. Hopefully this comes through. I've not actually tried playing a YouTube video live on air at the moment, ever. It says I've muted it. It's going so laggy. It's just not working, is it? Apparently.
We got a number one victory.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Hang on. Give it a chance to buffer, shall I?
Your internet is slow tonight.
It is.
We got a number one victory royale. Yeah, Fortnite, we about to get down. Get down. 10 kills on the board right now. Just wiped out Tomato Town.
It's really
My friend's
lagging.
gone down. I revived
Yeah.
him. Now we're heading southbound. Now we're in the Pleasant Park Street. Look at the map. Go to the marked sheet.
Yeah, my internet is definitely struggling tonight. This is not what you'd expect of a 350 megabit connection. But
Dial up.
yeah, it feels like it is right now. Get rid of that crap. Oh, fuck off. Right, we're back in the room. Oh wow, I've actually frozen here as well. But my camera's died.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. I'm back.
Okay, you're back.
That's all right. We're just having fun at the end of the stream anyway. I love how the conversation turned into watching memes. Yeah, sorry.
You never know what to expect with us. Except stupidity.
Yeah, you can always expect stupidity. Oh, no, don't worry. I'll never sing Do You Think You're Better Off Alone by Alice DJ. Don't worry about that, LB. Blimey, Eurodance. I'm so glad that's not a massive thing in England. There's one thing Brexit was good for. It's stopping that shit coming in.
No. Brexit is good for nothing. Except bad food.
Yeah, and, I mean, it's great if you want everything to cost more and the quality of life to go down. So if you're the sort of person that likes things being worse, then it's fantastic.
People need something to moan about, so they created a society where they could moan about everything.
And let's face it, we British people love moaning more than anything.
Yeah.
You like 90s trance? Hey, there's nothing wrong with 90s trance, but I'd go along the lines of some proper classic euphoric trance rather than the cheesy Euro dance. I mean, there's some of the stuff that I like that way, LB. But I mean, the fact that you said you like a bit of trance, maybe at some point I'll do a trance mix before we start. But it will be more along the classic or euphoric trance rather than 90s Euro dance. It will probably still be mostly from the 90s though. So
It's where all the best trance music was.
Yeah,
There's some
definitely
jungle.
agree. Yeah, no, there was definitely good jungle. Someone's bringing up Tiesto. I think he had a couple of good tracks, but I think he started going into the sound, which actually really annoyed me. And I think there were plenty of other. I mean, things like Ayla, DJ Tauscher, Rank One, Vera Kosha, Ferry Corsten, and all those people, they were, do you know what? I've started getting goosebumps just come up just from thinking about them. So much time spent in clubs not knowing who I was and loving it. listening to that shit.
Yep.
I think the thing
And
is,
outdoor raves.
yes, definitely. But I think with trance, it's a much more enjoyable music to listen to than actually DJ. One of the things that attracted me to DJing drum and bass and glitch hop and dubstep and breakbeat and stuff like that is the fact that you almost get to craft your own new track from the track, whereas with a lot of trance, it doesn't really blend together in the same way, and it's got that same sort of 4/4 beat. So there isn't much interesting stuff you can do with it. You can sometimes, but you're lucky when it works. And I still try every single track to double drop a trance track, and I'm often shown that I really shouldn't have tried in the first place. But it's just not as fun to mix, but it's a beautiful music to listen to. And so I'd be up for dropping some trance for you guys at some point before a show. Just jump in and let me know that you're here and that you want trance. I'm willing to take genre requests. I might not take track requests because
Punk and oi.
Sorry,
Punk and oi. That's
Punk and oi. I've got loads of punk in my collection, but none of it's in my turntables. But it's not necessarily going to be as fun to mix. It's going to be, getting towards the end of the track and then let's play the next one. I want mixable music. I want to pretend like I'm actually doing something because I failed as a musician. I'm a failure as a DJ, but at least let me feel like I'm doing something good. So did anyone out there have any more questions on the Quran or tonight's topic, or did anyone have anything else that they wanted to discuss before we go? Because obviously we've done the article, we've done everything that we meant to cover off. I've given you guys a couple of links as well. So let us know in the next minute or so, and we'll address it. If not, then I guess we'll shut off for today and we'll be back next week. I don't know if you guys also know, but we've started releasing highlights from It's a Load of Cack. So It's a Load of Cack was our stream about the Canadian Atheist Club. Or they're just Canadian Atheists. I put club at the end just to be a little bit of a dick, really.
They deserve it.
Yeah, I hate the fact that I feel this about people, but the way Randolph was and how dishonest he was with everything, it just made me go, well, do you know what? Fuck it. We have been releasing the little clips from that. I take as many clips as I can from a stream. Sometimes it'll only be sort of like 4 clips that are somewhere between 2 and 8 minutes long. Sometimes if it's a long section, like we did that stream with Opie, I only took 4 or 5 clips from it, but they were all sort of 10 to 15 minute clips each because they were long segments that required it. So rather than lots of little ones, they were a few big ones that deserved going in. Now, those are going to be released over the next few days. But the one that I would suggest everyone check out, I thought I'd already released it, but apparently not. I'm just going to check the videos, is the one about Randolph and Christians existing 500 years before Christ was born. That one gets released. Where is it? Oh, yes.
It's already been released.
Oh, no, today. It did get released today. Yeah. That's why I brought it up, because I thought it was released today and then I couldn't see it on our site. So
I shared it this morning on Twitter.
Oh, did you? I'll give that a reshare. Randolph is completely clueless. Christians in 500 BC. Highlight from It's a Load of Cack. I would just say, guys, this is one thing that you really need to.
Well, this next paragraph.
Anytime that someone brings up that site, the official definition of atheism, because this is on his fucking site. So I will post that in the chat right now. That clip, I don't want to take you away from our stream, but we're pretty much done with tonight. that is a clip that you should just check out. It may make you want to check out the rest of the stream. Feel free to, although I think we'll be pretty much preaching to the choir with anyone who's watching live right now. But yeah, I mean that it was painful. I must admit, towards the end of it, I wasn't even enjoying how much fun we could make of him. It was just disheartening that someone
Fish in a barrel.
Yeah. And LB says, yeah, the highlights really show the better of the two. Yeah, I think the highlights are quite a good little thing that we do. I think that not everyone has the time to tune into a stream, and even if they do have time to tune into a stream, they don't have the time to tune into all of it. So the highlights are designed for people who can have these, quick little clips, and actually they might go, actually, I've watched a couple of these clips over the last couple of days, and I'm interested enough in the topic, I'm going to check out the whole stream. Or they might go, actually, those couple of clips, that's pretty much all I wanted to get from it. And the way I am, I mean, I hate meetings at work. Right? I absolutely hate meetings at work, whether they're through the computer or what. I'd like, beforehand, give me the bullet points, and if there's anything I don't understand from those bullet points, I'll ask you questions. And that's sort of what the highlights, I think, are on YouTube for us. There are bullet points, and if there's anything you want to know more about, you can either check the rest of the stream, or you can ask us. But obviously, the thing that we love most about doing the live streams is the interaction that we get with you guys, because it's absolutely fantastic. And honestly, I hope that at some point we can get you all on with us. We did say that we're going to start doing... Yeah, well, not only a call-in, but we did start saying that we were going to go at the end of the month. We're going to do anyone can jump in and join us on the stream. We'll just have a sort of like an AMA type thing, where anyone can come in and just be part of the stream. We're not going to have a particular topic for the night. I will sit here and I'll DJ until a question comes in. Basically, that's what we'll do. And I'm well up for that sort of thing. I mean, we were going to do it at the end of February, but because my birthday was mid-February, we sort of did it there. So I will probably get less pissed at the official ones than I did on my birthday stream. So it probably make more sense to people as well. And OP, yes, I agree with you. We need to get LB on. I really, really want to have you on. I want to have that conversation with you about deism and how your deism came about, your history. I know you can type it there, but you don't have to have a camera up or anything like that. We just want to hear your voice and just have you tell us your story. We're not here to tell you that, oh, you're wrong for believing that. You know that that's not what we're about. We'd have had that conversation by now if we were going to have it. I just want to know what your beliefs are and why you believe them and how you came to be that. Believe what you do. So definitely at some point when you're up for it, but maybe before we do that, we have a general conversation with all of you lot that, all the people that joined our Discord the other day from the link. Maybe at the end of the month, we just get together and we just have a bit of a chinwag about absolute bollocks. As we say,
what we do all the time.
Well, exactly. As we say in this country, we'll talk shit cunt to strangers. So yeah, at the end of the month, we'll do that one. I don't know what the closest stream to the end of the month is actually going to be. I've got a calendar in front of me. Oh, look at me pretending I'm organised. Tuesday the 30th is the last stream of the month, unless we did Wednesday 31st, but Tuesday the 30th. Maybe if we plan that one slightly later than normal as well, just so that we can make sure that we get folks like Opie on, because he's not usually available until about 9:30ish. So if we start like a 10 o'clock one that day, and get as many people on as that want to be here, and there's no requirement for any of you to come on, but we'd love it if you did.
We'd love it, yeah.
Because we've loved chatting to you through Twitter and Facebook and our chat room and all of that. and Discord and wherever we've had the conversations with you, they've always been enjoyable. There's never been any antagonism. It's all been genuine, like, pleasant conversation no matter what. So folks, honestly, if you're up for that AMA at the end of the month, that's what we're going to do. 30th of March. I had to check what month we were in.
I still have to check what year we're in because of the lockdown.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy, isn't it? I find that every day has blended. It's been both long and short at the same time because every day has been the same. I mean, there was the summer days and then there's the winter days, but that's been the only difference the entire last year and a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's 2021. I just had to look at my calendar. I even did that earlier when you were talking about when you wrote it, and I was like, oh, so it's been 10 or 11 years, and then I've still forgotten. Yeah. But okay, folks, there don't seem to be any more questions coming in, but there does seem to be a bit of excitement for the end of month AMA general chinwag, talking cod shit to strangers and all of that jazz. So I think that we are going to give it a goodbye for today. You've been watching the Fresh Air Sci-Fi stream, and I'm Joe.
And I'm Galen.
We'll catch you all later. As we know from every week, on Tuesdays we tend to stream at 8 p.m. GMT, as well as Thursdays at 8 p.m. GMT, although recently we have sometimes been streaming a little bit later, although I try and on those days where we stream a little bit later, kick off the mix at 8 p.m. Anyway. So we will hopefully be seeing you all next Tuesday at around 8 p.m. GMT. Have a good night, all.
Good night, all. Take it easy.